The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to rise today. Ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, over the course of the last 30 years, our country's been facing some pockets of our country have been facing some very difficult times. And I have the honor of representing an area in Northeast Ohio from Akron over to Youngstown. And this is an area that was built on steel and rubber and auto and manufacturing. And I want to make one comment as I rise to talk a little bit about the auto industry, about my friend, the gentleman from Arizona, who was commenting about earmarks and investments that members of Congress are constitutionally required to make and spend money on behalf of the people of this country. In areas like mine, who for 30 or 40 years were booming, had the highest per capita income in the country, when the steel mills were going, we were taking our tax dollars and we were sending that money to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was sending that money to help build the West, to help build up states like Arizona, and to implement water projects and dam projects to take the Colorado River into the desert. These congressional districts in Arizona, New Mexico, they didn't just pop up. There was a significant federal investment to say that we want to develop the West. And now members of Congress who are looking for the opportunity to rebuild their community, to take specific projects and specific money and invest it in the Youngstown State University, Akron University for polymers, Youngstown State for a Defense Center of Excellence, Youngstown State for metrology and material science development. These are investments that we need to make to rehabilitate some old industrial areas, to get them on the cutting edge, and I think our obligation is to do that. But in our area, what has transpired just over the last few months has been significant. And I'll give you one example. Earlier last year, in the summertime, General Motors at a local Lordstown plant said that they were going to put on a third shift. We had the governor in, there were state tax incentives, $350 million. And eventually, because of the credit crisis and globalization and 30 years of bad trade agreements, the third shift was pulled, then the second shift was pulled, and now we have a fraction of the workers that we used to have there. But the minute GM announced that they were going to lay off 900 workers, a couple days later the seat manufacturer laid off a few hundred. A couple days later the logistics company laid off 100 workers. Delphi laid off. And on and on and on the ripple effect goes throughout their community, to the point to where Trumbull County's unemployment rate last year, Madam Speaker, was 7%. Today it is 14%. It doubled in a year. And the point of me rising here today is to say to anyone who will listen, and to the powers that be in Washington, D.C., that we need a manufacturing policy in the United States of America. We can look at the Dutch, the Spanish, the Brits, when 20 to 25% of their GDP became finance, where people are just shuffling money around, where it's a Ponzi scheme and Wall Street's making a lot of money and wages don't ever go up, then eventually you get to where we are today, and that's a collapse of the financial system. And we have a system now that's set up, Madam Speaker, that if an average family makes some mistakes, they're on their own. We cut them loose. But if the financial markets make a major mistake and do illegal and unethical acts, that they have the system so rigged that the whole thing collapses. And so everyone's got to jump in to save it. And so as we move over the course of the next few weeks and next few months, we need to recognize that the auto industry has a multiplier effect of 5 jobs for every 1 job in the plant. And finance has 2 jobs for every job in the finance industry. And we can talk about companies like Wheatland Tube, who have closed factories down in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania because of the tubing coming in from China. We could talk about auto. We could talk about Severstal Steel, who laid off 1,000 people. On and on and on, Madam Speaker. So let me suggest that as we talk about financial reform, universal health care, that we also add a manufacturing policy to the United States plan for the future. And I yield back
Thank you. The
whatever
gentleman's time
time
has expired.
I have left.